Hamza, the lion who changed the balance of history. Here stands the warrior, the champion, the roaring lion, the lion of God and the lion of his messenger. Hamza ibn Abdul-Muttalib of the house of Hashim, the uncle of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, and his foster brother. He was the knight of knights, the banner of warriors, the chosen protector and defender of the messenger. We step into the garden of his life, gathering its fragrance, adorning our hearts and tongues with his story. For Hamza was the model for all who sought the path and found it. He was among the men who fulfilled their covenant with God. Ka'b ibn Malik described him, a lion of the battlefield, rooted in the heights of Hashim, where prophecy, generosity, and nobility were born. Hamza was 2 years older than the Prophet, peace be upon him. He was raised on horsemanship and combat. Among his peers, he was known for his fierce courage and unbreakable will. In Mecca, none surpassed him in strength, honor, and resolve. He loved the hunt. He roamed the valleys of Mecca, tracking prey, mastering the arts of pursuit and battle, until he passed the years of youth. Then came the news. Muhammad, his nephew, had received revelation. At first, Hamza paid little attention. He remained devoted to his weapons, his hunts, his battles. He did not yet reflect on this new faith that rejected the idols of Quraysh and challenged the ancient order of Mecca. But the days moved forward, and Islam's light spread through the sacred city, while the polytheists answered with persecution and cruelty. And among the fiercest of Islam's enemies stood men who poured their hatred upon the believers. History was approaching its turning point, the moment Hamza chose his side. The enemies of the new faith did not relent. They mocked the message. They invested everything they had to block the path of guidance, and they poured their fury upon the weak and defenseless believers, until Hamza stepped in. His faith and his entry into Islam halted those brutal assaults. The cause of his conversion was this. One day, Hamza returned from hunting, his bow on his shoulder, his heart full of fire. His sister Safiya, the aunt of the Prophet and the mother of al-Zubayr ibn al-Awwam, told him what had happened. Abu Jahl had publicly insulted Muhammad, peace be upon him, near Mount Safa. He humiliated him with vile words, and the Prophet, in dignity and restraint, did not respond. That moment lit a storm inside Hamza. The fire of honor and loyalty surged in his chest, a fire that God had prepared for guidance and for the strengthening of his religion. Hamza stormed toward the Kaaba. He did not stop to greet anyone. He did not slow his pace. He saw Abu Jahl seated among his people. He walked straight up to him and struck him across the head with his bow, splitting his scalp. Then he roared, "You insult him while I follow his religion? You insult him while I say what he says? Strike me back if you can." The men of Banu Makhzum rushed to defend Abu Jahl, but Abu Jahl stopped them and said, "Leave Abu Umara alone. By God, I truly did insult his nephew terribly." Hamza stood like a mountain. Then he said, with the voice of a fearless warrior, "Yes, Abu Jahl, and how could you not when you fight unarmed men simply because they support this messenger? You call him a liar? Answer me, if you can." None dared step forward. Hamza returned home, his blood still boiling. Then the struggle moved from the battlefield to his own heart. Whispers invaded his mind. How could you abandon the religion of your fathers? How could you follow the religion of your nephew? But divine care reached him. Hamza turned to God, seeking clarity, seeking firmness, seeking truth. And by the blessing of the Prophet's prayer and the mercy of his Lord, Hamza's heart settled. He stood firm upon the straight path. From that moment forward, Islam was no longer weak in Mecca, for the lion had chosen his side. Hamza himself later described what he endured during those days: a storm of doubt, a war inside his soul, nights without sleep. He said, "Regret seized me for leaving the religion of my fathers. Doubt about this great matter shook me. I could not close my eyes in sleep." So he went to the Kaaba. There, beneath the open sky, he raised his hands and prayed, "O God, open my chest to the truth and remove doubt from my heart." Before his prayer ended, falsehood fell away from him. Certainty filled his heart. He went directly to the messenger of God, peace be upon him, and told him everything. The Prophet prayed for him, "May God keep you firm." And from that moment, Islam settled deeply within Hamza's soul. Faith's breeze flowed through his heart. Light poured into its chambers. Peace wrapped his chest. Tranquility flooded his spirit. Quraysh now knew Muhammad was protected, and Hamza would be his shield. They reduced their attacks, for they understood that the lion now stood beside him. Hamza advanced in faith and in defense of the message until he reached a station no other man had reached, the master of martyrs, as named by the messenger of God himself, the Lion of God, the Lion of his messenger. His Islam was honor for the believers and a fortress for the Prophet. Quraysh choked on its pride. Their arrogance was broken. Their tyrants were humiliated. With Hamza, the call emerged from hiding. Truth was declared openly. The cry of "God is greater" thundered in the ears of tyranny. His Islam was victory. His Islam was protection. His Islam was the opening of history. When the Muslims migrated to Medina, Hamza was among the first to arrive. The Prophet paired him in brotherhood with Zayd ibn Haritha, a bond of loyalty, sacrifice, and love. Their brotherhood reached such heights that Hamza entrusted Zayd with his final will before the Battle of Uhud, placing him above his own kin. Then the stage of destiny expanded. The trade caravans of Quraysh passed near Medina. The Prophet sought to intercept them, as justice for the Muslims who had been expelled from their homes and stripped of their wealth. Thus the expeditions began, as the community awaited the divine permission to fight. And the lion was ready. In the month of Ramadan, first year after the migration, the messenger of God, peace be upon him, entrusted his uncle Hamza with his first independent command. 30 riders from the emigrants, a clear mission: intercept a Quraysh caravan returning from Syria, 300 men, led by Abu Jahl. Hamza obeyed. He marched to the coast, where the two forces finally faced each other. Swords were ready, but a neutral chieftain, Majdi ibn Amr, stepped between them and prevented bloodshed that day. Still, the path of Hamza's military destiny had begun. He then marched with the Prophet, peace be upon him, in the first campaign of Islam, the expedition of Al-Abwa. The banner of that campaign was carried by the Lion of God. Later, he carried the banner again in the expedition of Al-Ushaira. Thus, Hamza stood at the front of the rising nation. Then came Badr. And what is Badr? The day of decision. The moment history turned. The believers, firm in faith, faced the forces of arrogance and disbelief. Truth rose. Falsehood collapsed. The messenger, peace be upon him, prepared his army, materially and spiritually, and Hamza burned with longing to prove his valor before the one he loved most. Then the drums of war sounded. The first man to rush toward destruction was Al-Aswad ibn Abd-al-Asad al-Makhzumi, violent, cruel, and reckless. He swore, "I will drink from their water, or destroy their basin, or die trying." He charged. Hamza intercepted him before he reached the water. With one strike, Hamza severed his leg at the calf. Al-Aswad collapsed, blood pouring from the wound. Still in madness, he crawled toward the basin to fulfill his oath. Hamza followed and finished him. Thus the lion announced himself on the battlefield of history. Hamza at Badr. When the lion unleashed history. When Al-Aswad fell, the believers thundered, "God is greater." Joy swept their ranks. The polytheists stared in disbelief at the crushing blow delivered by Hamza ibn Abdul-Muttalib, the Knight of Knights, the youth of warriors, whose arm victory never left. Then the battlefield demanded champions. Utbah ibn Rabi'ah advanced with his brother Shayba and his son Al-Walid, pride of Quraysh, burning with the arrogance of the old order. They called for single combat. 3 young men from the Ansar stepped forward. Utbah sneered, "We have no need of you. Send us our equals from our own people." The Prophet, peace be upon him, answered, "Rise, O Ubaidah ibn al-Harith. Rise, O Hamza. Rise, O Ali." They moved forward, armored, veiled, unstoppable. "Who are you?" the Quraysh champions asked. They declared, "Hamza ibn Abdul-Muttalib, Ali ibn Abi Talib, Ubaidah ibn al-Harith. Yes, noble equals." Steel clashed. Ubaidah faced Utbah, Hamza faced Shayba, Ali faced Al-Walid. Ali struck first, Al-Walid fell. Hamza struck next. Shayba collapsed. Ubaidah and Utbah wounded each other. Hamza and Ali rushed in and finished Utbah. The champions of Quraysh were gone. The war exploded, and in the heart of the storm stood Hamza, the Lion of God and his messenger. A banner marked by a white plume, tearing through enemy ranks, invoking God with every strike, scattering their formations, pouring terror into their hearts. The Quran would later declare that the angels themselves descended at Badr to fight beside the believers. By sunset, the battle was over. Hamza recited poetry, his voice carrying across the field, pointing to the fallen leaders of Quraysh. "Do you not see what fate has brought? We left Utbah fallen in the dust, Shayba among the dead. And God sent his armies when we charged beneath his banner." Badr carved deep scars into the soul of Quraysh. Their leaders lay dead, their armies shattered, their pride crushed. They fled back to Mecca, defeated, humiliated, stunned, unable to believe what their eyes had witnessed. For history had spoken, and the lion had roared. Uhud, the day the lion fell. Then came Uhud. The Muslims prepared for battle, and Hamza was among the most eager to meet the enemy outside Medina. He went to the Prophet, peace be upon him, and said, "By the one who revealed the book to you, I will not eat today until my sword is drenched in blood beyond the walls of Medina." Quraysh marched from Mecca with 3,000 warriors, bringing their women to stir hatred and revenge. Among them was an Abyssinian slave named Wahshi, owned by Jubayr ibn Mut'im. Jubayr told him, "If you kill Hamza, for my uncle Tuaima whom he killed at Badr, you are free." And Hind bint Utbah, burning with grief for her slain family at Badr, tempted Wahshi with gold, jewelry, and wealth, urging him to assassinate Hamza with his poisoned spear. At the foot of Mount Uhud, the armies aligned. From the ranks of Quraysh stepped Sibah ibn Abd al-Uzza, swaggering between the lines. "Who will fight me?" Hamza emerged. He roared, "O Sibah, son of the woman who mutilates the dead, challenge God and his messenger." Then Hamza charged. Sibah fell as if he had never been. The armies collided. Steel embraced steel. The battlefield burned. The companions of the Prophet fought with heroic fury. Ali, Talha, Zubair, Abu Talha, Abu Dujana, Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas, and many others. And at the heart of the storm stood Hamza. He fought like a lion among wolves. Whenever he charged, enemy ranks shattered. He fought before the Prophet, peace be upon him, crying, "I am the Lion of God." None could approach him, none could withstand him. Standard-bearers of Quraysh fell beneath his blade one after another. He surged deep into the enemy formation, scattering warriors, unmatched in courage, unstoppable in force. And then, from the shadows, Wahshi waited. He measured his moment. He hurled his spear. It struck Hamza. The lion fell. History held its breath. The fall of the lion and the rise of Mercy Wahshi would later describe the moment. I was a skilled spearman. Rarely did I miss what I aimed for. When the armies clashed, I searched only for Hamza. I saw him among the fighters like a raging camel, cutting down men with his sword. None could stand before him. I waited behind a tree. When he came close, I hurled my spear. It struck him below the navel and pierced through his body. Hamza looked at me and tried to reach me, but strength failed him and he fell. I retrieved my spear and left. I had no other purpose in the battle. I killed him only for my freedom. The battle ended. The Prophet, peace be upon him, went searching for the fallen. He found his uncle Hamza, mutilated. He stood over him and said, "Never have I been struck by anything like this. Never have I stood in a moment more painful than this." For a moment, grief burned in his heart. The companions, seeing his sorrow, spoke of vengeance. Then Gabriel descended with the law of heaven. If you punish, then punish only to the extent of what you suffered. But if you endure patiently, that is better for the patient. And the Prophet submitted to the command of God. He ordered that the martyrs be buried in their blood and garments. Hamza was buried with his nephew Abdullah ibn Jahsh in one grave. The Prophet stood over the martyrs and said, "I bear witness for these. No one is wounded in the path of God, except that God will raise him on the day of resurrection with his wound bleeding, its color the color of blood, and its scent the scent of musk." When they returned to Medina, the Prophet heard women weeping for their dead. He said softly, "But Hamza has no one to weep for him." The women of the Ansar came and wept for Hamza. Poets of the Messenger composed the finest elegies. Ka'b ibn Malik wrote, "My eyes weep, and they deserve to weep, for the Lion of God, the day they said, Hamza is slain." And the Messenger of God, peace be upon him, said, "Had it not been that Sophia would grieve, and that it would become a practice after me, I would have left him, so that birds and beasts would eat from him. Never shall I be struck by anything like this again." The lion had fallen, but his roar still echoes through history.